Hi, my name is Scott Gibson with Beneath the Surface. I'm here with Jay Taylor of Jay Taylor's Gold and Technology Stocks. Jay, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Now, you're a big picture analysis. What do you get your take on the macro view of what's going on in the sector?
Well, I think in general, I think the equity markets are long in the tooth in this bull market. We've had now almost 5 years of uninterrupted bull market in the S&P 500, for example, the major markets in New York. And it's interesting to note that one analyst I recently had on my own radio show talked about the only time we've had this kind of a bull market, this duration, without a serious correction, there were 3 times, 1929, 1987, and 2007. So your viewers only have to review a little bit, think back a little bit in time and read the history books and find out what happened after that. So I don't know that we're going to have that kind of a cataclysmic downturn in the equity market. I think it's possible because I think the economic picture globally is still problematic, to say the least. But it's getting long in the tooth, Scott. So one of the things that I've done this year is, in my newsletter, is I've taken a position short the S&P with SH using an ETF. And I've also taken the view that we've got to be very close to the end of the bull market in bonds that started in 1982, long-dated treasuries. So I've also taken an ETF to short the long-term bond. I've also taken a short against the Japanese bond, the Japanese treasury, the long-dated treasury, and also a short against the Japanese yen.
So you're pretty firmly believing that this is going to turn over in the fairly near future?
Yeah, I think it's, I'm very, very bearish on the equity markets. We've seen sort of record levels of margin in New York for the equity markets. We've seen, in addition to this duration, it's just been the number of bulls as opposed to bears is just, it's just at historical levels. And all you have to do is go back and look at history when things get like this and people think it's a one-way street. It's not. So whether it's next month or sometime this year, though, I think we're going to have a serious correction in the equity markets.
A serious correction, 10, 20%?
Yeah, I think 20% or more is a very, very realistic expectation. I don't know the timing of it. That's the only problem.
And what is your take on what that's going to do for the resource sector?
Well, I think at the same time we've had quite a bear market in gold for the last two or 3 years. It's been pretty tough for a lot of the resource stocks and the resource producers. I think, gold in particular and silver to a lesser extent, they're monetary metals. And my belief is that the global economic system is very problematic because of the monetary system. Essentially, what we have is too much debt. It's the Keynesian economic policies that have gotten us into trouble. And the only thing they know is to do more of the same thing and expect a different outcome, which is what I think it was Albert Einstein called insanity. The definition of it is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome.
Well, what's your take on the taper, the reducing of the $85 billion a month?
Yeah, I think it's window dressing. I think the taper going from 85 to 75 is just setting the stage for Janet Yellen to come in. I don't think it's, I very much expect that the tapering will be reversed in a vengeance and that we'll probably start to see an increase in monetary stimulation when, let's just say if I'm right on the equity markets and we see a major decline in the equity prices, I think the first thing you'll see is Miss Yellen starting to pump making Ben look like a child's play compared to what I think she's going to pump probably more than anybody expects, and then I think that will be extremely bullish for gold.
I see. And then you think, what's your sort of target for gold, I guess? Do you have a target for gold this year?
I don't have a price target, Scott. I've always been more of a believer in the real price of gold, and so I think gold will rise relative to other commodities this year, I think, relative to oil. I still think that in spite of all this money printing, you have to realize that money is created with debt. Debt it's no longer an asset-based money. If we had a gold standard, it would be an asset-based money. We have a debt-based monetary system, and that's what is leading to huge amounts of deflationary forces. That's what Yellen and Bernanke they're afraid of, and rightfully so, because there's so much debt it cannot be repaid. So that if the market were left alone to its own devices, we would have the most vicious deflationary depression we've ever had. And so that's the force of the markets, and what they're trying to do is counter that force by printing money. I don't think it will work, so I think there's a chance that we'll continue to have deflationary forces That is bullish for gold, though. Most people don't think of it in those terms. One, we have a market crash. We saw it in 2008, 2009. Gold went up relative to energy and all kinds of other things. The gold mining profits surged since they started printing, and they've gotten the equity markets and the mainstream assets have prospered and done well. Gold hasn't done well, and the real price of gold has declined, and we've seen the profits of the margins and the profits of mining companies, gold mining companies, decline very dramatically. I think that's going to be reversed in 2014. One hedge fund manager I had on my show predicted, and I think he could very well be right, that this is going to be a monster year for the gold mining shares. And I sort of have the sense that he may be right. I mean, the first couple of weeks of this year are certainly looking better. The tone of the market is much better for the juniors, I think, than I've seen for some time. And but I think it's really based on the monetary problems that we're having, and I think that's why I'm very bullish on gold, to a lesser extent on silver.
And what about gold stocks? Is there particular gold stocks that you like right now?
Well, I like the ones that are producing and can grow organically internally, and there's a number of those. I like some of the project generators as well that are out there that have not issued tremendous numbers of shares to keep the lights on during this downturn.
Right.
And I think any number of those could do extremely well. You know, I really think then there's some that are on the cusp of they're producing but not profitable yet, and the market is punishing them because they're losing money. Well, once they switch over to profitability, I think from a percentage on a percentage basis, I think those will perform best.
Yeah.
So,
is there any particular ones you want to mention, or is it something that should subscribe to your publication?
Well, they can subscribe, but I could mention a couple of them. I think on there's a Dynacor is a company, a Peruvian-based company that I like very much. It's done very well. I would say Silvercrest is one that I like a lot. Silvercrest is a gold and silver producer, more silver than gold, with lots of growth prospects, great management. They don't issue shares; they just grow organically. So those would be two examples. On the project generator, Eurasian Minerals is still very much a favorite. Not so much a gold producer, but in coal and potash is Altius, and also nickel and copper. That's a royalty company, which I think is going to really produce some very great dividends for people going forward. So those are some ideas, but there's...
Do you own those four companies, or are they...
they're all in my publication. Altius I do not own, but I own the others that I mentioned.
And just full disclosure, I don't own any of those four.
Okay.
I think I've owned all of them in the past, but at this time, no.
Well, I like them a lot right now, so...
Yeah. Excellent. Well, thanks very much for being with Jake.
You're welcome.
Appreciate your picture, the macro picture, and what's going on with gold right now, and a few companies to take a look at.
Thank you, Scott.
Again, that's Jay Taylor of Jay Taylor's Gold and Tech Stocks. My name is Scott Gibson with Beneath the Surface. Thanks for being with us.